Let's go ahead and get started doing the lat pull downs. Now this will be the standing version. Right up front, I just want to mention that I think for a lot of us, we're gonna do better doing the lat pull down in a kneeling position or a half kneeling. So I'll link to those tutorials below. The reason I say that is because in order to get a good range of motion for the lat muscles, we need to be able to have the band taut when our arms are up here and pull all the way down. That's a little harder to do in a standing position at home just because it tends to mean that we should mount our bands like super high, like much higher than we can actually reach or have a place to anchor it, right? So I just want to mention that up front. You might get the best range of motion in the kneeling or half kneeling position. But I'm still going to show you the standing version, especially if you're a beginner. Most likely you can do the standing and still be able to get enough tension. All right, so you're going to take your band, pretty much mount it as high as you can. For a lot of us, especially if you're using a door anchor, that will be towards the top of a door. The idea is that when you're standing, just direct, facing the anchor, just a little bit back from it, that your arms, when you're holding the band, will be kind of halfway between directly in line with the shoulder joint and directly overhead. It's going to be like halfway between here and here. So ideally your hands will be starting kind of around in here, if that makes sense. So trying to get your band mounted where you can do that, but then still pull your upper arm all the way down to your torso. See my elbow all the way down to my torso. So that's the goal there. Before we go any further, I just want to kind of show you the path from the front so you kind of know what you're looking to do. Our hands are actually starting a few inches outside of our shoulder joint. So here's my shoulder. If my hands were in line with it, they'd be more here. But we're going to actually start with the hands out a little bit, okay? That's going to help us really get the lats and a little bit less of the chest muscles. So hands are outside the shoulder joint. And as we pull down, the elbows come into the torso, but the hands stay outside the shoulder joint, okay? So hands are here, they stay out here the whole way down, elbows come in. So that's the whole goal of the movement pattern. So we don't want to be bringing our hands in as we pull down, and we also don't want our elbows going out during the movement, okay? So hands out, they stay out, elbows come in, okay? Just so you can kind of see from the front. All right, so you've got your band mounted. You're going to have your palms facing forward. This is called a pronated grip. And again, your hands are a couple inches outside of your shoulder joint. And the idea is that our arms are they're not directly in front of us, but they're also not directly out to the side like that. So they're kind of in between that a bit. This is kind of what's called the scapular plane, which is just the angle that our shoulder blade lies on our body, on our rib cage. Just kind of goes out like that. If you extended your arm out, that's about kind of where our shoulder blades lie in our body. So that's about the angle that we're shooting for in our starting position, okay? You want to have a slight bend in the knee, feet about hip width apart, toes pointed forward, feet nice and flat on the floor. Gently pull your belly button into your spine and think about having a nice broad chest. Neutral neck so that your chin is parallel to the ground. Hi, I'm Razel. If you're a woman in your over 40s like myself, and you've been interested in doing strength training at home, but have felt intimidated by not really being sure how to do it, to be safe and to do it properly, I create tutorials that really break these movements down so you can feel comfortable doing them in your home. If that sounds good to you and you like my style of teaching, come on over to my website at inspirefulwomen.com. To do the movement, what we're going to do is pull the upper arm. So the upper arm is from the shoulder to the elbow. We're going to think about that pulling down, the elbows pulling down towards our torso and into the torso. And remember, the hands stay outside the shoulder joint. We don't let them come in, okay? So just like this. Now, ideally at the top, it would be good if you have some tension on the band already, if possible. You pull down and squeeze here with the elbows into the torso, and then you slowly release against the resistance here. Now, as you pull, sorry, I'm thinking, you guys, you want to think about the muscle that's working is in here. So you want to think about like squeezing, pulling with this muscle, okay? Even though it's our arms moving, think about this. Try to connect your brain to this muscle in here on both sides, obviously, of your spine. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a few together. Hands outside the shoulder joint, palms facing forward. We're gonna pull the arms down, the elbows will bend, and then squeeze the upper arm into the torso here at the end, and then slowly resist against the resistance, going back up. So it's really quite a simple movement. One more thing I can show you with the standing is, you know, the line of pull, the way the band comes down to our hand and how our hand is pulling on it makes a difference in how effectively the muscle is working. So as I mentioned, it's a bit difficult to get the band, like ideally we would almost have the band directly overhead, but most of us are going to be mounting to a wall, so we can't do that. So another thing you can do to get a good pull and to feel the lats working really well is to actually step back a little further and to hinge at the hips, hinge here at the hips, to have a slightly bent over torso. So if you'll notice when I do that, now my hands, my arms here are more easily overhead. I'm feeling more tension. And when I pull, you can kind of probably see the line of pull, see the line, the band is kind of going more directly down the length of my arm. So that pull is gonna help me to work the lat muscle really well. So this is the other position you can do it in. Okay, let's go ahead and do a few. And remember, no matter which version you do, the idea is to keep those hands outside the shoulders a bit and to have our hands and our arms not in front of us and not directly out to our sides, but more in here, doing the movement. And I think that's it. One more quick thing I forgot to point out, which I feel like is important to say, is that with the way our arms are starting above us like this, it means that our shoulder blades will probably be a bit elevated in the start position, and that's normal. You just want to make sure that you remember that as you pull your arms down, that you also pull your shoulder blades down as well. Do you see how I have that broad space between my ear and my shoulder? Versus if I start out here with my arms and shoulder blades up, but I only lower my arms. Let's see, hold on. It's hard to do it wrong sometimes even practicing it right. It'd be kind of like that. Do you see my ear? So, and my shoulder, so there versus here. So just remember, they come down together. Arm and shoulder blade together, come down together. Thanks for being with me today, ladies. Once again, I'm Razel. If you like my style of teaching and you're really interested in doing strength training at home, if you come on over to my website, I am creating full-length workouts using these movements in beautiful outdoor nature settings with chill music, not the sort of music you've heard probably in most workout classes. If that sounds good to you, come on over to my website at inspireforwomen.com.